The weather in the neighborhood was always bright and happy. Sure, occasionally there was an indoors episode due to rain, but it never was any punishing weather. Until now. The clouds had arrived first, filling the air with a thick veil of electricity and the sweet, pungent aroma of ozone. It gave half of the town a headache, and most puppets of home retreated into their houses. That's when the wind came. It was loud, really warm, and screaming like a banshee past the windows, trying to claw its way into the cozy buildings. No one but you seemed to want to brave the storm. Your name was Mildred Mildew Merriman III. The third part of your name was something you had added yourself to sound more dramatic. You were a theater puppet through and through, dressing every day in a different outfit and wearing a different white theater mask as well, from which you chose between three different ones: a neutral one, a happy one, and a sad one, depending on whichever mood you had when you woke up in the day. And during a glorious day such as this, you had dressed up as a Valkyrie, meaning a fake leather skirt and boots, a tight leather chest piece and shoulder pads, and a plastic silver-colored helmet with two fake wings, all rounded up by a burgundy cape that flowed in the wind like a ghost sheet. Your face covered by the happy mask. However, beneath your eccentric attires, you were a very basic white humanoid puppet, similar to Julie or Wally, with scarlet red hair that reached down to your shoulders and a beige nose. You had red felt around your lips to give you the appearance of having a permanent lipstick. You were raising a very obviously wooden sword into the air as you screamed against the wind. As far as you were concerned, you were right now fighting side by side with other imaginary Valkyries and warriors of Valhalla against the giants of Ragnarok, charging forward to what you perceived as the eye of the storm, when Idhogr was waiting for you. Even though what was really happening was merely a thunderstorm. Your costume was already soaking wet, and still your voice was overpowered by it, like a dark power forcing you to go further beyond. Deep inside, you took step after step, the wind becoming stronger, the thunders louder, and then a flash. Your eyes widen as you look to your right. The hammer of a giant. No, a tree. The trunk of a thick tree was falling right towards you. You blinked multiple times as the image of the hammer switched to the tree, back to the hammer, as if your brain was trying to see reality to make you try and survive. As if time stood still. Your mind was battling to make you understand the grasp of your own mortality. From the shadow of your view, footsteps rushed towards you. Your feet lifted off the ground as you are thrown into the mud, rolling once, twice, thrice. Someone was on top of you, then under you, then back on top of you again. Your back hurt. You are covered in mud. Slowly, your head rolled to the right, eyes catching the side of the fallen log smashed onto the ground where you just stood. Your heart beat fast. The shock alone was enough to make you black out for a bit. You almost died. For a while you just stared, not noticing how your savior helped you up before pulling you inside of his house, where it was warm and dry. There were others too, but you were disassociating too much. Someone had taken off your mask, and then someone else put you aside. You're brought into a white room, and then you coughed. Someone had thrown you into warm water. Confused, you looked around. You were naked, sitting inside of a bathtub filled with warm bubblegum-scented bubble bath. The water a mix of black mud and a garish pink. Someone was washing you. You looked to your right. There was Julie Joyful, one of your neighbors, a pretty blonde puppet. "Hey, Mildred," she giggled. Absent-mindedly, you touched your face, your fingers making contact with your wet felt. "Where's my face?" You croaked, voice like that of a husk. "Right there, silly," said Julie as she booped your nose. Julie didn't realize that you meant your mask. Dang, you must have lost it when the giant tried to hit you. "All that matters is that you're alive. Wally saved you. Thankfully, home has just 2 bathrooms so he can get clean as well. He was even so kind as to let you get clean in the one with the bathtub." Julie thought for a moment. Though considering how stunned you were, pushing you into a shower would seem a bit cruel. Julie explained that her and Eddie Deere, of all people, had been outside when the storm hit. Wally's home being the closest, they sought shelter there. The painter, kind soul he was, allowed the two to stay and have a slumber party. Allowing Julie and Eddie to borrow some of his pajamas, though Eddie was a little too big, so he just stayed in his underwear and tank top he'd been wearing under his uniform. Not that the postman minded. They just put out some tea and biscuits when, apparently, Wally had been looking out the window as you had been passing by, screaming and fighting ghosts, as he had put it. And we wanted to invite you too. The lightning hit the tree you were standing next to. It was thanks to him that you were still alive. Sadly, though, you weren't sure as to how to feel about this. Surely, if you used your sad mask, you probably could. So you just stared blankly. "I suppose I need to thank him," you thought, almost out loud. Julie continued washing you, her soft hands gently gliding across your shoulders, your neck. When she reached your chest, however, you pulled away, and Julie blushed. Of course, you prefer to clean there yourself. She apologized, before pouring a thick glob of shampoo on your head. It smelled good. You couldn't believe Wally had such an interesting shampoo collection. Impressive. And as if she read your mind, Julie stared at the bottle she was using on you. "Huh, this scent is super rare. Probably should have asked for permission first. I think Howdy has this in the store only once or twice per year." You didn't say anything, but you were annoyed at her. Why would she use it if she knew it was so rare? She then picked up the shower head. With her other hand, she took yours, holding it under the stream before reaching for the tap. "Tell me when the temperature is just right." The water was cold, slowly but surely getting warmer. You made an okay hand sign when it was just right. And skeptically, Julie just said okay. Personally, she considered it still too cold, but whatever. Gently, Julie's fingers moved through her hair. Julie might be ditzy, bordering on stupid. But when it came to things such as this, self-care, she showed utmost discipline. She knew if she left any shampoo behind, that would leave behind dandruff. And that was a no-go for a cute puppet like you. She couldn't allow that. You are so pretty too, without that mask. Again she blushed, watching her hands move against your body to clean it. Or she washed your back. It was rare you had someone assist you with this. Washing really seemed to be like something two people were needed for. You felt cozy. That's how you would describe what you were feeling right now. And then suddenly the door to the bathroom opened, both your eyes darting to the intruder. It was Eddie. He had a hand placed on his eyes. I'm sorry, ladies, but Wally doesn't have shampoo upstairs. Mind giving me a bottle? He held out his hand, and Julie sighed. As she turned to grab a bottle, you stood up and wrapped a towel around yourself. And almost disappointed, she looked at you. Don't worry, Mildred, we also have clothes for you too, said Eddie. Good, you muttered as he walked past the blonde girl puppet. Eddie walked upstairs. You put on the blue pajamas he had offered you, before you sat down on the sofa. While Julie went into the kitchen putting on a new can of tea as the old one had gotten stale, soon Wally descended the stairs with Eddie. The painter had his usual pompadour replaced by it simply hanging with his wet hair. He probably styled it in the morning when it was dry. Hey Mildred, he said chipper. You look alive. Seems like Wally was super proud of saving you, making your lack of reaction a little disappointing to him, though he just shrugged and sat down next to you. Eddie meanwhile threw himself on Wally's recliner with a loud yawn. The two men were talking about something that wasn't interesting to you. That was Wally who first noticed your apathy. He shook your shoulder a bit. Are you okay? After a moment of silence, he realized what was wrong with this picture. One moment. He walked down into the basement, where he was washing your Valkyrie outfit, returning a bit later with your mask. Your eyes widened as you watched him approach, and immediately you put your face back on. You sighed happily, leaning back. That's when Julie returned. On a tray she had tea, an ice-cold bottle of orange juice, and a selection of biscuits. Minutes soon turned to hours, and you could feel the energy of the people around you decrease with the amount of liquid inside the bottle. You had tried to join the conversation after you gotten your face back, but despite that, everyone had seemed so far away. You couldn't really keep up. Still, you joined the other three in a circle on the floor, just to be part of the group, as Julie slammed the bottle in the middle. Truth or dare. So slumber party games. Well, that was fun at least. Julie made Eddie juggle a bunch of Wally's cups. Eddie made you sing a song on the radio that you had never heard before, and Wally told everyone that his favorite time of the day was when he caught a quiet moment just for himself to paint. No one really had the bravery necessary to make anyone do anything risky or say a truth that was too revealing. Sure, maybe that was a little dry, but you had a lot of fun. At least until... Okay, Mildred, chuckled Julie. Truth or dare? Had been a while since a dare had been made, you realized. Especially Eddie only saying truth ever since he almost dropped those cups. You smiled, everyone seeing your lips curl up through the white grin of your mask. There, he said confidently. Julie blushed, and then smiled smugly. Though as she opened her mouth, she was instantly reconsidering it. And she said it without thinking, really. Do you want to play 7 Minutes in Heaven with me? Wally oh'd loudly, while Eddie respectfully shuffled a little away from the bottle to give Julie and you more space. Taken aback, just a little, you stared at her. Blushing, Julie scratched her cheek. I mean, you don't have to. You can just leave the game. You couldn't tell if this was meant for you to tap out of the game, or if she genuinely wanted this. The competitive side in you wanted to say yes, and strangely enough your emotional side too, while your logical thinking was advising caution. Though what could she possibly do in the closet with you? Now it was you who blushed. But then you inhaled bravely, quickly getting on your feet. All right, let's go. Eddie, kind soul he was, had already opened the broom closet, and he went out of his way to take out the brooms for more space. Surprisingly, you were even the first one in it, feeling more of a fighting spirit rather than embarrassment. Meekly, Julie followed, closing the door behind the two of you. The two boys sat down on some beanbags Wally pulled out from somewhere. Break time, said the painter with a lazy smile. The last dare had been a little exhausting, but at the same time he didn't want to quit the game either, so this was a welcome change of pace. Meanwhile, you and Julie looked at each other. Her legs were crossed as she stood there. Meanwhile, you were leaning against the closet's wall. Truthfully, you were just as anxious as her, though. So, what's the meaning of this? I just said it without thinking. You nodded. Does this mean you wanted this? Maybe? Yes. She took a step forward. I mean it, I admire you. She smiled. It wasn't forced. You're so brave all the time. Tilting her head, she added, well, as long as you're wearing that. She touched your face. But seeing you without it, for the first time, She took another step closer. Julie pushed herself against you. Her body was warm and pleasantly firm for a puppet such as herself. You slowly exhaled through the smile of your mask as she looked up at you. Was she making herself smaller, or were you always this tall next to her? I like you a lot, Mildred. Julie took your hands without asking, her thumbs rubbing gentle circles into your palms. I wanted this, she whispered. You could tell she was holding herself back. It was sweet, albeit a little much. Softly, she smiled at you. Can I take it off? She asked cautiously. Are you comfortable with that? You looked away for a moment. You really did feel naked without it. You weren't comfortable with it. Or at least, you wanted it to be. But since you didn't decline, she let go of your left hand, slowly reaching up. You could feel her delicate fingers at the rim of your mask, leaving behind spots that felt comfortably warm where her skin touched yours. Slowly, she pushed your second face up to the top of your head. Gently, she rubbed over your chin. Just as before, the removal of your face flicked the switch. More alarm bells rung in your head. You wanted to flee. Julie could feel that. But you were in the closet. There was symbolism here, though you couldn't quite put your finger on it. Not without your sad mask, at least. Your hands were shaking. Amused, Julie narrowed her eyes seductively, her face coming closer. You could feel her breath tickle over your face. She was fascinated by you, by your switch in personality. It opened up so many opportunities. Opportunities she'd like to experience. Opportunities she'd like to taste. Opportunities she'd like to feel. Slowly, tender, carefully, her lips touched yours. Her eyes widened. Somehow it didn't feel wrong. Which was strange, but not in a bad way. From the moment Julie had taken off your mask, she knew that from here on out she'd had to do everything. But she was okay with that. She tilted her head a little as she pressed tighter against you. "Open your mouth for me," she whispered. And just barely you parted your lips. She gave you a moment to breathe before latching back onto your mouth. This time more eager, more lewd, as her tongue pushed forward, bravely, deliciously. It rubbed over your slimy and wet, hot, soft, and so lewd. Her fingers taking hold of your hands, she pulled up your arms above your head, allowing the blonde puppet girl to press her entire weight against you. Your eyes rolled back. You were so close you could feel each other's heartbeat. And you couldn't help but want more. Thank you to the people who are supporting me on Ko-fi. You guys are keeping me alive.